Well, the blessing before the reading of the Torah. Bless the Lord, the Blessed One. Blessed is the Lord, the Blessed One, for all eternity. Blessed are you, O Lord our God, King of the universe, who has selected us from all the peoples and has given us his Torah. Blessed are you, O Lord, giver of the Torah. Okay, everyone would like to stand in honor of reading the Word. I'll be reading out of Genesis, chapter 19 today, starting in verse 12. Genesis chapter 19, starting in verse 12. The two men said to Lot, "Do you have anyone else here, sons-in-law, sons or daughters, or anyone else in the city who belongs to you? Get them out of here, because we are going to destroy this place. The outcry to the Lord against its people is so great that he has sent us to destroy it." So Lot went out and spoke to his sons-in-law, who were pledged to marry his daughters. He said, "Hurry and get out of this place, because the Lord is about to destroy the city." But his sons-in-law thought he was joking. With the coming of dawn, the angels urged Lot, saying, "Hurry, take your wife and your two daughters who are here, or you will be swept away when the city is punished." When he hesitated, the men grasped his hand and the hands of his wife, of his two daughters, and led them safely out of the city. For the Lord was merciful to them. As soon as they had brought them out, one of them said, "Flee for your lives, don't look back, and do not stop anywhere in the plain. Flee to the mountains, or you will be swept away." But Lot said to them, "No, my lords, please, your servant has found favor in your eyes, and you have shown great kindness to me in sparing my life. But I cannot flee to the mountains. This disaster will overtake me, and I will die. Look, here is a town near enough to run to, and it is small. Let me flee to it. It is very small, isn't it? Then my life will be spared." He said to him, "Very well, I will grant this request to you too. I will not overthrow the town you speak of, but flee there quickly, because I cannot do anything until you reach it." That is why the town was called Zoar. By the time Lot reached Zoar, the sun had risen over the land. Then the Lord rained down burning sulfur on Sodom and Gomorrah from the Lord out of the heavens. Thus he overthrew those cities and the entire plain, including all those living in the cities, and also the vegetation in the land. But Lot's wife looked back, and she became a pillar of salt. Early the next morning, Abraham got up and returned to the place where he had stood before the Lord. He looked down towards Sodom and Gomorrah, towards all the land of the plain, and he saw dense smoke rising from the land, like smoke from a furnace. So when God destroyed the cities of the plain, he remembered Abraham, and he brought Lot out of the catastrophe that overthrew the cities where Lot had lived. Blessing after the reading. Blessed are you, O Lord our God, King of the universe, who gave us the Torah through his servant Moses and the realization of grace and truth through his servant Yeshua, our Master and Messiah. Blessed are you, O Lord, giver of the Torah, grace and truth. Thanks for standing. So the overall Torah portion was from chapter 18 to 22. Just to kind of give you a quick overview of the whole Torah portion if you didn't read it. Starts out with the three visitors coming to Abram, saying, your wife is going to have a son. Talks about Abram pleading for Sodom, going through, will you destroy it if there's 50 righteous, 40, 30, so on. Then Sodom and Gomorrah destroyed, what we just read. And than Abraham and Abimelech. It's a pretty popular story here. I know you guys know it pretty well. So, but anyhow, I wanted to look at this particular section here, and I wanted to talk about the enticement of sin and how it has such a hold on us. We all, as humans, we all deal with that, every single one of us, because we live. We all live in a sinful world. That's the way it is. We all deal with gossip. And I think that is one that a lot of us are involved in that we don't even think about. That's something I've been thinking about recently, and how easy you fall into that. Even if it's the truth, that's the hard thing with gossip. Even if it's the truth and you're talking about somebody to someone else in kind of a negative light, that's not right. Man, this guy at work, like he's so and so, like he does this and that. Even if it's true, it's not right to just slander somebody else's name like that. We all deal with greed, hatred. And for guys, a huge one is lust. That's just the way it is. I don't know any guy who does not deal with lust. Everybody picks on Walmart, so I will too, I guess. Everybody says it. You go and check it out. There's magazines of women and whatnot. It's out there. We live in a sinful world. If you're a guy who doesn't deal with that and has an issue, then you probably have some bigger problems. But anyhow, nevertheless, those are things we need to be aware of and constantly have our guard against that. Kathy, when she was giving a testimony, she said something along the lines of, what you're feeding the most, that's what's gonna, that's what's gonna grow. Another saying that I've heard, and I think it was somebody, let me know if you're the one who said it, but something about like two dogs fighting, who's gonna win or something. Was that somebody here who gave that analogy? Was that you, Dan? Yeah, it's like and the analogy was like, there's two dogs fighting, it's supposed to be a symbol of the, you and the world fighting against God, and which one's winning? It's the one that's being fed the most. If you're constantly in the world and you're not having much time for God, that's going to win. But I think also we have to look at that also as saying, as we live in a sinful world and the majority of things around us, the evil one is running the world. You have to look at it too, that the world is also feeding us. It's not just us putting our efforts into the world. We're constantly being affected by the world. So even more so, we need to put time in the Word and get food from the Word, feed our thoughts and minds from His Word. And I think sometimes we just get as far as doing things we're not supposed to or whatever. I think another reason is we just do it just to see if we can get away with it. It might not even be the sin itself that we like to do. It's just the thought of, let's just see if I can get away with this. It's probably easy to see this with kids. It's like, don't take that cookie or whatever. It's like, well, they've had a million cookies in their life. They're good, but they're not that good. But, they just want to see if they can get away without their parents finding out. It's that excitement. So anyhow, so I want to talk about Lot here. Obviously, when Abraham said, hey, take whatever land you want, he chose to pitch his tents near Sodom and Gomorrah. That was his choice. He put himself into that position. And if you notice, he might have started out by pitching his tents near Sodom and Gomorrah, but as we read, when the angels came to that city, he had at some point in time moved into that city. So he went from just pitching his tents outside of that city near it to actually in the city itself. So we think what in the world was keeping Lot so attached to that city? I didn't read it, but in the beginning of chapter 19, when the angels get to that city, all the guy, Lot insists that the visitors come and stay in his house because all the men surrounded his house and, wanted to do some crazy stuff. So, so all the guys in the city were a bunch of spooks. It's like, what in the world, what in the world was in that city that was, I don't know, enticing to Lot. But anyhow, so he flees to Zoar. Actually, I missed something here. I want to read verses 15 and 16 again here real quick. With the coming of dawn, the angels urged Lot, saying, hurry, take your wife and your 2 daughters who are here, or you will be swept away when the city is punished. When he hesitated, the men grasped his hand in the hands of his wife, of his 2 daughters, and led them safely out of the city, and the Lord was merciful to them. I think that's interesting. Just a little bit ago, or a little bit above this, it said Lot told his sons-in-laws, hey, God's going to destroy this place. They thought he was joking. But we see here in verse 16, he wasn't even that compelled to leave, I guess. It says he hesitated even after he knew they were going to destroy it. So there was some kind of a draw there for even Lot. So anyhow, so he flees to Zoar, another wicked town that God had intended to destroy, along with all the other cities of the valley. It's kind of funny here in verse 22 it says, but flee there quickly, because I cannot do anything until you reach it. That is why the town was called Zoar. So I read that and I thought, well, the word Zoar must mean something pretty significant. Something having to do maybe with not being able to, have God's wrath on it or something like that. But I looked at the word and it means small or tiny. So I was like, whatever. In verse 20, it's kind of weird they put that there because it refers to that in verse 20. It says, this is Lot speaking, look, here is a town near enough to run to, and it is small. Let me flee to it. It is very small, isn't it? So anyways, if you were wondering, that's what the word Zoar means. I thought that was kind of funny. It also, another name for that town is Bella, too. You can see that it calls it that earlier in Genesis. So that's the same town. But that's an interesting thing. Originally, God told him, flee to the mountains. I'm going to destroy the city, go to the mountains, because God's intent was to destroy everything that was wicked in that valley. Lot didn't obey that. He said, "Oh, I'll die if I do that. Let me go to this town," which basically spared that city from the wrath that should have been poured out on it. Another thing I noticed here was, in all the books, and they're like little kids' books and stuff, it always shows Lot, his two daughters, and his wife running from the city as it's being destroyed behind them, and Lot's wife turns back and turns into a pillar of salt. We can read that they already were at Zoar when this happened, because the angel said, "Go there quickly, because I cannot do anything until you reach it." So with that, I guess the reason I bring that up is, if they were just running away from the city while God was destroying it, and she looked back, you could kind of see that as, she was just like, what in the world is going on, and turns around and sees the burning cities and turns into a pillar of salt. But we see that they reached safety. They were not in danger. They had already reached Zoar, and Lot's wife turns back and looks at the city, which kind of, to me, it kind of puts in my mind that it wasn't just a looking back as what's going on. It was a kind of like, I wish we were still there kind of a deal. Or something along those lines. It kind of makes it more clear to me that, she missed it, I guess. And it's not just his wife. Later on, we see, after Lot flees to the city, he says, "It's too dangerous. I can't be here anymore." So he flees to the mountains. As soon as I read that, it reminded me exactly what Dan was talking about last week. Abraham, God told him to go to this place. He settled in between Bethel and Ai, where God had him. He moved, went down to Egypt or, whatever, and come to find out, comes right back to the place where God told him to be. And the exact same thing happened here with Lot. God told him originally, go to the mountains. He didn't disobey, went to, this other city. Turns out he goes right to the mountains, right where God originally had him be. And it doesn't say what was going on in that town, but it doesn't sound like anything good, because it said Lot and his daughters were afraid to stay there. So it doesn't sound like anything was good was going on there either. So anyhow, just to wrap this up, I talked about at the very beginning, being enticed by sin, and how, it does have such a hold on us, and it's hard to get away from it because we live in a sinful world, but, we can use this story as, we still have decisions that we can make that can affect that. Lot chose to pitch his tents near Sodom and Gomorrah, which eventually had him living in those cities, versus Abraham, who, decided not to do anything, not to have anything to do with those, and live away from them. So that's what we can do. I mean, we can, if we see sin, you can still avoid it. You can still avoid a lot of it, and it won't be a temptation to you. So just be on your guard for that, and be looking out for that. So that's what I had for you today. Thanks.